Our movie begins with a party at a large house located somewhere in the Los Angeles hills. And that's where we first meet Edward and Philip, his scummy lawyer. This is the house where that party took place, and there's not a lot to see these days. It's pretty well covered, but right here in the driveway, this is where Edward takes the Lotus even though he has no idea how to drive it. Right on the other side of this gate is that 3-car garage, though today it's covered with newer garage doors, but those square windows above the garage doors, those can still be seen along with this tree branch. And right over here, this is where the valet was set up. Edward would have pulled out of the driveway in the Lotus, made a right, and headed down the street this way. This house right here can actually be seen in the movie, though it looks a bit different today and it's a lot more covered up. This is the corner of Hollywood Boulevard and Las Palmas, and we'll be revisiting it a few times throughout this video. Throughout the opening credits, we see Edward lost, driving around Hollywood, trying to find Beverly Hills. He makes a left turn off of Larrabee Street onto Sunset, just west of the old Tower Records. Edward's now making a right turn onto Sunset Boulevard from Horn Avenue, just east of the old Tower Records. Man, he really is lost. Vivian walks right past this pillar that's located on the corner of Hollywood Boulevard and Las Palmas, and amazingly, all these years later, still has the same paint job. About half a block down, we see her standing in the street, checking out a crime scene, before moving right past the detective that's played by Hank Azaria, who we all know and love as Moe Szyslak, and many other characters on The Simpsons. She then heads into the lobby of the Hollywood Outpost. And if we peek through the window, you can see the lobby looks exactly like it did at the time of filming. There's the staircase, the shoe-shining chairs, the walls are the same, the floor is the same, everything is untouched. After getting a quick glimpse of the crime scene, she heads out of the outpost and right across the street to the Blue Banana nightclub, which would have been located right here. Now, the Blue Banana was a fake nightclub. That was just a facade, and the interiors were filmed somewhere else. Meanwhile, Edward's still lost. He asks this homeless man if he knows where Beverly Hills is, and he replies, "You're here. This is Sylvester Stallone's house." And that house used to be located right here, but it appears that it was just recently torn down. You can actually still see some of the rubble on the other side of this gate. It looks like there's still a back house or something located on the property, but the home that we see in the movie is no longer here. And if you look on Google Maps, it still shows up. So again, I think it was just recently torn down, and it appears that they're tearing down a lot of houses on this street. There's quite a few empty lots. We're now back on Hollywood Boulevard, and this is where Vivian and Kit hang out, just east of Highland, and they hang out on the stars of Bob Hope and the Ritz Brothers, and Kit actually mentions that in the movie. Now, although that parking meter is gone, the lamppost that Vivian leans up against is still here. So if you're ever in the area, you can come lean up against the exact same lamppost that Julia Roberts leans up against. They see Edward coming down the street in the Lotus, And this is the shot, but the intersection of Hollywood and Highland looks completely different, mostly because that shopping center wasn't there at the time. Vivian walks over to greet Edward, and she passes by all of these businesses, none of which are the same. After finding out that he's just lost, she agrees to help him find his way back to Beverly Hills, of course for a small fee, and right here is where the Lotus would have been parked. This is where she gets into the car. After she gets in, they then drive off down Hollywood Boulevard, heading east. We see them pull up to the intersection of Hollywood Boulevard and Wilcox. But when the camera is facing the other direction, we see them make a right turn on what's supposed to be Wilcox, but they're actually making a right turn onto Las Palmas. They pass right by this newsstand, which is currently closed, and then we see that church down at the end of the street. Vivian's now driving, and we see her come around the corner extremely fast, and she pulls up right in front of the hotel. And this building right here was used for all of the exterior shots of the hotel. The doorman comes over and opens the car door for Edward, and we then see Vivian and Edward standing in front of the hotel saying goodbye. Vivian then heads over to the bus bench to wait for the bus, and that bus bench would have been located right here, just to the side of these two palm trees. Edward then asks Vivian if she would like to come inside the hotel with him, and then next thing you know, this happens.
Your extra time and your kiss.
The next day, Edward explains that he's going to be in town for a week and could use a companion, and after agreeing on a price, she finally agrees to stay with him for the week. Now, all of the scenes that you see inside of the penthouse, those were actually filmed on a set. None of those scenes were filmed inside of an actual hotel. It was just easier to build a set for the penthouse. However, all of the scenes that you see inside of the hotel lobby, those were filmed in the lobby of the Ambassador Hotel on Wilshire Boulevard. I previously showed the Ambassador Hotel in my True Romance filming location video. It was famous for being the place where Robert Kennedy was assassinated, but unfortunately the Ambassador Hotel was torn down in 2005. This used to be the location of the store from the famous scene where Vivian has to deal with the rude employees, but it's now a different store and pretty much everything here has changed. We first get a shot from inside the store looking out the window of Vivian walking down the street, and this right here is the window that the camera is looking through, and as you can see, even the window has changed. But if we look this way, this is pretty close to the shot that we get of her walking down Santa Monica Boulevard. A few moments later, she walks through the front door, which would have been right here, but again, as you can see, even the front doors are different. Everything at this location has changed. Now, of course, this is the same store that we see later in the movie when Vivian comes back to let the employees know that they made a huge mistake.
Big mistake. Big. Huge.
The famous dinner scene with the slippery snails.
Slippery little suckers.
It happens all the time.
Was actually filmed inside of the Cicada Club in downtown Los Angeles. Now, I can't tell you how excited I was to sit in traffic for over an hour just to try and snap a couple of pictures inside the Cicada Club, to arrive and find out that they were filming something and I wouldn't be able to film inside of the Cicada Club. Oh well, here's a picture that I grabbed off the internet just to show you what it looks like inside. And years ago, I actually came to the Cicada Club for dinner and dancing, and at the time I had no idea that they filmed that scene here. The LA Equestrian Center in Burbank was the location of the polo match. We see Philip and his wife walking right past this tree when they first arrived to the game. And right over here is where the cars were parked, and Edward and Vivian stand there next to the car talking. Now there would have been another tree located somewhere right about here. The tree that's still here is visible in that shot and still looks the same. Also in the background you can see a set of stairs and the edge of this building, which are now blocked by this tree. But if we move over here, you can see the staircase I was talking about and the edge of that building. Vivian and Edward arrive at Burbank Airport before boarding a private jet and taking off to San Francisco. Now, the outside of the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles look a lot like the exterior of the Opera House that we see in the movie. That scene was supposed to be filmed at an opera house in San Francisco, but due to an earthquake, they weren't able to film there, and they had to find a quick replacement and ended up filming that scene at the Carnegie Music Hall in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. However, the Los Angeles Natural History Museum was used for the interior lobby of the Opera House. Notice that the flooring is still exactly the same. Vivian and Edward would have moved away from those center pillars, walking right past the lady handing out programs, before then moving towards the staircase. You know, I find it so funny that while Vivian and Edward are walking through the lobby, all dressed up, if the camera would have just panned over slightly to the right, we would have seen dinosaurs. Now, for the interiors of the actual opera house, that was all just a set done on a soundstage. Vivian convinces Edward to take his first day off, and that was filmed in this park that's located right in front of Los Angeles City Hall. We see them walking in front of this large fountain. She's actually walking on the wall in front of the fountain, and things right here have changed quite a bit. That wall that she was walking on is no longer here, and I'm not even sure if the main part of the fountain is still functional, but this is the spot where that scene took place. We then see them relaxing on a blanket underneath a tree. I believe that was filmed in the same park, but a little bit closer to City Hall. All the trees that we see in that shot are gone, but the structures in the back still match up perfectly. They end their day at a small restaurant called Barb's Quickie Grill, and that used to be located right here. Now, the story that goes along with Barb's Quickie Grill is a very interesting one in itself, and if you're interested, I highly recommend looking it up. The W Hotel in West LA is the location of the swimming pool where Vivian and Kit sit down and catch up. So here's the swimming pool, and those are the stairs they walk down. I wasn't able to match up the scene exactly because there were so many people out here. So just to give you a little bit of a different idea, right over here is where they would have been walking, and then they sit down at a table right in the same area. But again, I just couldn't get over there because there was way too many tables and people. And then right over here, this is where the flowers were that we see behind Vivian's head. It's now been turned into a waterfall. We see Edward standing right here in front of his limo right after his big business meeting, and he tells the limo driver just to hang tight for a bit, and he heads over to the patch of grass that's right over here to my left. We then see him take his shoes and socks off and walk around in that patch of grass. That happens right here in front of me. And all of these are the same trees that we see in that shot. I think there was one other tree in the far left corner, but notice that red sculpture over by the building. And all of that happens right here in front of this building, which is supposedly where Edward has all of his business meetings. And we get a shot very similar to this one a couple of times earlier in the movie, and those were just used as establishing shots. Now that their deal is over and Vivian's gone, Edward realizes that he misses her and he loves her and he asks to find her, but first he stops off here to get her some flowers. And we're back at the intersection of Hollywood Boulevard and Las Palmas, and right here was the falafel place where Kit and the new girl are hanging out. And if we come right next door to that, right there is where the flower lady was set up, where Edward purchases the flowers. At the time, it would have had a roll-down garage-style door, but this is the exact spot where he buys the flowers. For the ending of our movie, we find ourselves back at almost the same place where we started, the Las Palmas Hotel. The limo comes down the street this way and pulls up in front of the hotel where Vivian's waiting in the window. After Edward climbs up one flight and Vivian climbs down one flight, they stand right there on the fire escape kissing. The camera zooms out from the hotel and we see the same man from the beginning of the movie asking us, "What's your dream?" That's going to do it for this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.